Marvi, you're good to go.
Thanks, Ashley. Welcome, everyone. I'm Marvi Hagopian. Thank you for joining us. We are so eager to present Parent Session 15 in our The Path to Reading and Spelling series. Today, we are revisiting this presentation on phonemic awareness and sound spelling correspondence due to technical difficulties we experienced during the first airing of this session. Today, we will explain how to teach early phonemic awareness and the correspondence between sounds and their spellings. This series is hosted by the Dyslexia Initiative. The focus this season is on kindergarten and first grade reading skills and strategies. Our first two sessions set the stage for the information we will be sharing in the remainder of this series. In session 13, we talked about dyslexia, what it is, what it isn't, how it affects children, and how evidence-based instruction can prevent reading failure. In session 14, we focused on standards and frameworks, their purpose, their importance, and how parents can use them to advocate for their children, as well as support literacy instruction at home. Now, it's important to understand that language arts curricula and materials must reflect the content of evidence-based frameworks and standards at each grade level. When parents and teachers and administrators know what is in the framework and grade level standards, they can confirm that a school's instructional materials contain all necessary resources for diverse learners to achieve proficiency at every grade level. Before I begin, I would like to introduce Ashley. She's with us once more. Ashley is a co-founder of the Dyslexia Initiative. She monitors your comments in the chat box. So Ashley, please say hello.
Good evening, everyone. Thanks for joining.
Now, if you don't mind, please write your general location in the chat box. Then Ashley will acknowledge from where you are participating. Thank you for doing that. Panel members have joined us to share their expertise and insights. They are administrators and reading coaches who are well-versed in the science of reading. We are all volunteers with a strong desire to share what we have learned about evidence-based literacy instruction. So panel members, when I say your name, please say hello so we can see who you are. Let's start with Dr. Norma Baker.
Good evening, everyone.
Michelle.
Hi, everyone.
And Marilyn.
Hello.
Now, Terry may be joining us a little later. You can access panel members' bios on the Dyslexia Initiative's website. We will finish our session with the wrap-up chat. During that segment, we respond to any questions or comments you may have. Okay, let's see if we have some people out there tonight. Ashley, could you please share the locations from where some of our participants are watching? Are you muted again?
I'm muted, of course. Trying to get back to Facebook because it threw me out.
Of course. Well, I'm glad I'm not the only one.
Here we go. Here we go. Here we go. Tennessee, Florida, New Hampshire, New York, New Jersey, Texas, California, Michigan, Ohio, Ontario, Canada, Long Island, and it keeps going. Wow.
I knew we were going to have good participation. We had a good response um, when we were sending the word out that we were going to be live today. So again, thank you for joining us. It's so inspiring to be part of a worldwide community committed to ensuring all children learn to read. So now it's time to move on to the foundational skills of reading acquisition. Please give me a second to go back to our slides. Okay, there we are. Today, we will observe a phonemic awareness activity showing an example of how children are taught to hear the first sound or initial phoneme in a word. Then we will share a phonemic awareness warm-up for sound spelling correspondence lessons. We will introduce sound spelling cards and explain what they are and how they are used. And we will provide a routine that can be used at home to teach sound spelling correspondence. Watching sessions 8 through 12 from our Beginning at the Beginning series will augment today's presentation on phonological and phonemic awareness. Let's begin with some important background information. The Reading Language Arts framework on this slide is one of the resources we will be using this season. The document has grade level standards. These standards are like Common Core standards, but they also include sub-strand skills within each standard. Here's the link to a free copy. Now, to download the entire document, go to the second link on the slide and then paste the first link into the box. Both links will be posted on the Dyslexia Initiative's website. Reading involves the process of decoding a word seen in print and simultaneously matching the word to its meaning. In 1986, Goff and Tumner, prominent reading researchers from the University of Texas at Austin, developed the simple view of reading. This video explains what it's all about. There we go. Okay, let's watch.
And I give them on all different aspects of struggling reading. And I start every single workshop with the same introduction, and it's called The Simple View of Reading. It's research that is the most important research, in my opinion, that's ever been done on reading, because it clarifies very clearly what good readers do well and what those who don't read so well struggle with. And the simple view of reading is research that was first done in 1990. It was proposed in 1986, and it's been replicated hundreds of times since then. People have tried to disprove it, and they've tried to prove it. They can only prove it. They cannot disprove the simple view of reading. And what it says simply is that reading is made of two components: decoding and language comprehension. In order to be strong at reading comprehension, You got to be strong at decoding, and you got to have background knowledge and understand the words that you're reading. If you are the most brilliant person in the world and you understand physics and you can draw pictures and you can't decode the words, you can't achieve reading comprehension. You only have language comprehension. Decoding is also a critical skill. You must be able to read the words accurately. I work in Africa sometimes, helping develop programs for languages that children in rural Africa speak. They are languages I don't speak: Fulfulde, Kanuri, Wolof, Bular. They have what's called a transparent orthography. That means one letter always spells the same sound, not like English where one letter can spell a number of sounds. I can decode those languages perfectly. You tell me that a C spells ch, and I can read any word because the vowel A always spells ah. The vowel O always spells O. So I can read cho. I don't have a clue what those words say. I don't know one word in Wolof, but I can read a whole page. I can decode a whole page. So I've got decoding, but I don't have any language. I can't get to reading comprehension. So the simple view of reading tells us two things. We have to be strong in decoding, and we have to have strong language knowledge. We have to know something that helps us know what the words are. Researchers all know about the simple view of reading. Teachers don't know about it. And it's the most important thing that teachers, if they would understand that students must be strong decoders, that means you don't guess your way through material. You can decode unfamiliar words. It means that you know what you're reading about. They would understand then that if you have a tier 2 student, meaning that student has a little bit of reading problem, not a severe reading problem, they would not say all tier 2 students go into the same program. Whoa, you're a tier 2 student and you're in 3rd grade. We're going to put you in Read Naturally. Read Naturally is right for some students, but we don't know because all we have is that they're a tier 2 student, meaning they're behind in reading comprehension. We got to dig further and find out, is that a decoding problem or is that a language problem? And we teach those two things separately, and we test those two things separately. And that's something that teachers, they don't carry that with them. And if teachers could carry that with them, they would, number one, know they've got to teach decoding until it's very strong. They cannot let kids guess their way through text. The second thing they would know is that when a student isn't performing as well as we want them to, we don't say what's wrong with their reading comprehension. We say, I wonder if the problem is decoding or language comprehension. And that is the most important knowledge that we have from research that is absolutely applicable to teaching that teachers don't know about. If teachers understood the simple view of reading, they would know that when a child has a reading difficulty, they're not performing as well as we want them to on a reading test, we have to dig deeper. And the first thing we ask is the problem that the student has difficulty decoding? Is the problem that the student doesn't understand what they're reading? Or do they have both problems? And if they have both, then we have to address them differently with separate kinds of interventions. Decoding is finite, and we teach decoding. You can read words that you don't even know what they mean. You're a strong decoder if you can decode them. Like I'm a really good decoder in Wolof and Fulfulde and Kanuri. Don't know anything about the language, but I'm a very strong decoder even in those languages. If the problem is language, obviously for me, the problem is I have no vocabulary. So that would be easy. Teach her what the words mean. If I get a student who speaks English, And I know that they have a language problem. And how do I know they have a language problem? Because their reading scores are low and they're strong decoders. It's simple algebra. It has to be language. The problem has to be language. Well, then, just like the simple view of reading says, well, if the problem's reading, is it decoding or language? If a student has a weakness in language, I ask 2 questions. Is it a vocabulary background knowledge difficulty, weakness, which is relatively easy to fix? Or is it reasoning and syntax, that the student just doesn't get it, even though they know what the words mean, but they just miss the idea? One is pretty easy to fix, the other is more difficult to fix. There are
Okay, we're going to go back to our slides. Oops, too far. Oh, no, that was right. Okay. We introduced Dr. Hollis Scarborough's reading rope in our previous session. This visual helps us understand the simple view of reading. Now notice that the threads of word recognition and language comprehension intertwine to produce skilled reading. Reading is a 2-step process. First, words need to be decoded or sounded out. The second step involves comprehension, or knowing what the words mean. Thus, skilled reading requires both decoding and comprehension. In this series, we will be working on word recognition, phonological awareness, decoding and spelling, and sight recognition. These skills, while only a first step to reading, are critical. Our goal this season is to share evidence-based strategies for teaching word recognition. So let's look at the skills we will address in today's session. On this slide are the standards we will be working on today. As you can see, we will be addressing word analysis, fluency, and systematic vocabulary development skills. For kindergarten, we will be addressing phonemic awareness, distinguishing orally stated 1-syllable words and separating them into beginning and ending sounds. Under decoding and word recognition, we're working on matching all consonant and short vowel sounds to appropriate letters. First grade skills are, under phonemic awareness, distinguishing initial, medial, and final sounds in single-syllable words. And for decoding and word recognition, we are focusing on generating the sounds from all letters. Let's get started. Prior to teaching a lesson, it is essential that children understand the following academic words. Children need to know what a sound, something that you hear, a letter, something you see in print, and spelling are. They also need to know the terms first, starts, begins, as well as last, ends, and middle. We want to be sure a child knows the meanings of these critical academic words. Playing games using these words will prepare children for phonemic awareness and sound spelling lessons. For instance, to teach the meaning of the word sound, you may want to play this game. Tell the child, let's play a game. A sound is something you hear. Excuse me. Close your eyes and listen for a sound. Then clap your hands and ask, what sound did you hear? The child should be able to say a clap. The game can be repeated with any sound, for example, a bell or a drum. The purpose is to make sure the child knows the meaning of the word sound. Games are a great way to introduce academic words you will be using in a lesson. Early phonemic awareness activities involve separating the first sound in a word from its other sounds. This is called phoneme isolation. Here's a video of how phoneme isolation or onset fluency is taught. Oops, need to share it first. Here we go.
Onset fluency is an early phonological awareness skill. It could also be referred to as first sound fluency or initial fluency. The focus of the lesson is on hearing the first sound in a word. Students isolate consonant sounds, vowel sounds, and consonant digraph sounds at the beginning of spoken words. We, as the teacher, say the word to the students. They repeat that word back and isolate just the first sound. Say park, and students would repeat park, p. If a student responds with the letter name, we would say to students, that's the letter name. Tell me the sound you hear. Our lessons are always referring back to the sounds in words. For this onset fluency activity, it is also important that we make sure students are keeping their sounds nice and clipped. We do not want to hear the schwa added on to the sounds. If the word were park, we would say park, p, not park, pa. If we hear students making that schwa at the end of the sound, we want to teach them to clip the sound. We will be the model for them, produce the sound the correct way, and ask them to repeat it.
Okay, back to our slide. Now, not everyone uses the term onset fluency when isolating sounds. The term is unique to the Haggerty program the person in this video is using. Phonemic awareness activities are often used as a warm-up before teaching letter-sound correspondence. The purpose is to familiarize children with the sound and the letter or letter combination that sound represents. Play games using words that begin with the lesson's target sound. Showing pictures of objects that begin with the target sound are particularly helpful for language learners. You can find pictures in magazines or online. One phonemic awareness activity children enjoy is the thumbs up, thumbs down game. Start the game by telling children they are going to hear some words that start with the sound they are learning. Let's say the sound is ah. Tell them to put their thumbs up when they hear word starting with the target sound, and thumbs down if the word starts with a different sound. Then go through a list of words that start with a, mixed with words that start with other sounds. If children have difficulty distinguishing the target sound from other sounds, for instance, discriminating a and e, provide additional instruction and practice, then repeat the activity. Once children can separate the first sound in a word, work on ending sounds. Save activities that focus on isolating middle sounds until the children have a good grasp of first and last sounds. Now, there are many videos online that offer suggestions on how to teach first the beginning, then ending, and finally middle or medial sounds in isolation. Words beginning with continuous sounds such as and ah are the easiest to master. Just a reminder, sessions 8 through 12 in our Beginning at the Beginning series focus on phonological and phonemic awareness. Watching those 4 sessions will give you many more ideas on how phonemic awareness is taught. Phonemic awareness warm-up activities should be brief, lasting only about 5 minutes. Now we are ready to learn how to teach sound spelling correspondence. In our first series, Beginning at the Beginning, Parent Session 4, we shared a routine or procedure that can be used to teach letter naming. In that routine, letter sound correspondence was not part of the lesson. If a child is having difficulty learning letter names, watching Parent Session 4 may clarify why children have difficulty with this skill. Once children know most of their letter names, they are ready to learn the sounds letters represent and how spellings are used to represent each sound. A spelling is a letter or letter combination that represents one sound. In our one sound in our language. For example, the letter B represents the sound B. Put another way, the spelling for B is B. There's only one way to spell B, and that is with the letter B. Some sounds can be spelled multiple ways. For instance, the eagle card on the left of this slide shows 6 different spellings for long E. Sound spelling cards are used by structured literacy programs as a key component of their phonics and spelling curriculum. This video explains how some programs use individual sound spelling cards in small groups with individual or with individual students. So let's go to that video. Okay.
Consulting, we specialize in working side by side with educators to improve outcomes for all kids. Today I want to talk to you about sound spelling cards. These are a set of they look like alphabet cards that come with many of the commercial reading programs, but the problem is that there's often no training provided on them for teachers on how to use them, and very little guidance given in the teacher's guides even on how to use those cards strategically. And what I want to tell you is these cards can dramatically improve your students' spelling if you can show them how to use the cards. And I want to teach you the background of the cards so then you can use some really great strategies with kids and help them to become better spellers. So these cards usually come in a big shrink wrapped package, and they're pretty large. Today I have a flashcard version of them right here, but they usually they're pretty big, and I want you to get those off the shelf and get them posted up in your classroom because they can be really powerful for kids once they understand how to use them. But for them to use them, you need to understand how to use them. So let's just look at a few things. I'm going to just introduce a couple of the cards here, and then in the subsequent videos, I'm really going to go deeper into each of the cards, show you how they work, and then give you some strategies, some instructional strategies used with kids when they're spelling words. So let's look at this first card. This card is a vowel card, and it's signified with a picture with a green background. Many of the programs are like that. These cards are from Open Court, which is with McGraw-Hill Publishing. Programs like Reading Wonders have sound spelling cards. Programs like Houghton Mifflin Journeys have sound spelling cards. And you can even get, if you have no access to sound spelling cards, you can go to a website called Tools for Learning, and they have really great sound spelling cards that you can use with any curriculum. So let's go back to these cards. This card shows the vowel sound, which is a short vowel sound in green. Many of the cards do that, have the short vowel sounds in green. So you can see that what's great about that is we're going to visually show kids the vowel sounds. We're going to color code those so that they can distinguish between your vowel sounds and your consonant sounds. The second one I'm going to show you is a consonant sound. So you'll see that picture on the front with which represents the sound. But when I go to the back, here's one with several spellings. And so when I look at the sound k, with these spellings, we have 3 spellings for k. These are the most common spellings in English. We have 3 listed here, and I want you just to notice something here. That we have a green box CK. What that's signifying for kids is we're going to have to use a green vowel before that spelling. And that's just one of the ahas that you can have with these cards in terms of how to teach kids how to spell visually and showing those orthographic patterns through these cards. So I hope you enjoyed this introduction. We're going to go a little bit deeper into, again, into these cards later on in our other videos. So be sure to check those out. We're going to learn a new sound spelling on our sound spelling card. Are you ready? The card that we're going to learn today is the camera card. What card is this? The camera card. The sound of the camera is k. What's the sound? Yes. If you enjoyed the video, be sure to hit that thumbs up button. It really does help us out a lot. And just remember, I've got more videos coming out about this that will give you a little bit more background and also give you some strategies for using this with kids. Be sure to also check out our website, sidebysideconsulting.com. Thanks for watching.
I like that video. Okay, to our slide. Okay, we have one more video. The next video will show how sound spelling wall cards, the big ones, are used for whole group instruction. In this video, let's see, am I on the right? In this video, Miss Marisa, oops, I think I need to go one more. Let me see, just a minute. Yes, there we are. That's the right video. Okay. So in this video, Miss Marisa demonstrates how to introduce the sound spelling for J spelled J.
Miss Marisa's classroom, where I will be modeling how to introduce the sound spelling cards. Now let's take a look at the sound spelling cards, and here's what they look like on the back. It's just the letter name and shape. And then, of course, when you turn the card over, we have the picture and a story to go along with it to reinforce that sound and that spelling. But before I do this, I'd like for you to see that I'm going to use a routine card. Open Court Reading always uses routine to introduce a sound spelling card, to introduce blending, to introduce dictation, vocabulary, just to make it consistent and easy and grade level specific. So you ready? Here's how we're going to do this, everybody. First, step number 1, we ask the students, what do you know about the cards, boys and girls? What do you know about this card? And the students will probably say, it's a J. That's right, Michael, it's a J. And what kind of J is this? And Michael perhaps could say, it's capital J. Excellent. Anybody know what kind of J this is? And maybe Lisa could say, it's lowercase j. Excellent. So we have a capital J and lowercase j. What else can you tell me about this letter? And they may say, oh, it's black. Oh, what does that mean? It's a consonant. You remember it, everybody. And what are the red letters called? Vowels. So you're going to have that kind of discussion. Now, when we turn the card over, and something fun you could do is maybe a drum roll if they're at their desk, or on the carpet. It's time to look at the name of the card, everybody. Name of the card is Jump. What's the name of the card, everybody? Jump. Excellent. And we have letter J. This is the Jump card. And boys and girls, this particular card has multiple spellings that you could see that I am going to cover for now, because we are not talking about these different spellings right now, but eventually we will learn all the spellings. So let's take a look at the story of Jump. Are you ready?
Jump. When Jenny jumps her jump rope, it sounds like this. When Jackson jumps his jump rope, it sounds like this. The judges generally agree that Jenny jumps most rapidly. When Jenny jumps, she jumps to this jingle. Jump, jump, jump so quick. Whenever I jump, I like to kick. The judges generally agree that Jackson jumps most quietly. When Jackson jumps, he jumps to this jingle. Jump, jump, nice and quiet. See what happens when you try it. Jump rope, like Jenny. Jump rope, like Jackson.
So, ready, everybody? Let's talk about jump. When Jenny jumps her rope, it sounds like this. When Jackson jumps his rope, it sounds like this. The judges generally agree that Jenny jumps most rapidly. When Jenny jumps, she jumps and jingles. Jump, jump, jump so quick. Whenever I jump, I like to kick. The judges generally agree that Jackson jumps most quietly. When Jackson jumps, he jumps to this jingle. Jump, jump, nice and quiet. See what happens when you try it. Jump rope like Jenny. Or you can jump rope quietly like Jackson. Do it with me, boys and girls. Like Jackson 5 times. Ready? Excellent, everybody. So what's the sound? Excellent. So let's review our new sound of the day. Here we go, everybody. Name of the card? Jump. Sound, everybody. And our spelling today is going to be J. I want you to know, everybody, J is usually used in the beginning of a word, or it could be used beginning of a new syllable. So a word like joy starts with a J, and a word like enjoy will start with that J for the next part, everybody, the second syllable. So just remember, J is used in the beginning or a new syllable, okay? So let's take a look at how.
Okay. Other programs use a similar routine. Now, it was pointed out that spellings not yet taught were covered up. This procedure helps students focus their attention on the spelling being taught. Spellings in kindergarten and first grade are not taught in alphabetical order. Instead, evidence-based reading programs follow a carefully thought out sequence that teaches the most common consonant and short vowel spellings first. A child's active engagement is critical. Children should participate throughout the lesson. Active engagement during the lesson with periodic checking for understanding helps children focus on new learning. An extra benefit is that when children are actively involved, the children who need additional support can be easily identified. This video did a great job of showing us how sound spelling cards are introduced. Let's analyze the routine of the lesson we just observed. First, a sound spelling wall card was used to introduce the letter. Then, the students were asked what they already know about the letter. In this lesson, the students had already been taught and knew the letter's name, that the letters were upper and lowercase j, and that the letter was a consonant, because they had learned consonants are color-coded black and vowels are color-coded red. Next, the name and picture of the card was introduced. The name and picture were carefully chosen by the publisher to remind children of the sound and the spelling they represent. In the video, some of the spellings for j had not yet been taught. They were covered up. The children were told they will learn the hidden spellings in later lessons. Then, an alliterative story emphasizing the target sound was read aloud 2 times. Next, the children were asked to practice saying the sound aloud 5 times. For children who benefit from a multisensory approach, hand and body movements can be incorporated into the lesson. Finally, in the routine, the teacher addresses where the spelling most often occurs. Ms. Marisa told the children j is spelled at the beginning of a word or syllable. Teaching the rules of a particular sound spelling when it is introduced is crucial. Some sound spellings are unique to their placement in a word or in relation to the sounds that come before or after the spelling. There was a lot of information packed into that lesson. All of it is important. The value of sound spelling cards cannot be overstated. Ideally, they should be in a prominent place, such as on the front wall of a classroom for all children to see and use. You can purchase or download sound spelling cards online. Sound spelling correspondence lessons do not need to be taught in the same way as shown in the video. However, understanding how they are taught in classrooms can help parents support their children at home. Just a reminder, a routine is a procedure used each time a sound spelling is taught. Routines provide consistency to instruction. They allow children to focus on new learning because they already understand the lesson's instructional sequence. Here is a routine that can be used to teach the sounds and spellings for short vowels. Let's use the sound ah, the short vowel sound for a, spelled with an upper or lowercase a as an example. Now you're going to show the child a card on which both upper and lowercase a and a picture representing the sound is displayed. Play along with me. I'll be your teacher and you'll be the child. Are you ready? This is the letter A. What's the letter's name? Child answers A. Yes, this letter's name is A. Red letters are vowels. Is A a consonant or a vowel? The child will say vowel. Yes, A is a vowel. Red letters are vowels. The sound of A is ah. What's the sound of A? The child responds ah. Thank you. Yes, A says ah. The spelling for ah is A. What's the spelling?
A.
Yes, tell me again. Name of the letter.
A.
Sound.
A.
Spelling.
A.
Good. Great. A says ah. After the routine, talk about the picture and point out that it will help the child remember the sound. Then, ask the child to think of a word that starts with the sound. Finally, have the child use the word in a sentence. Encourage the child to elaborate or extend the sentence by adding descriptive words. For example, if the child says, "I have an apple," encourage the child to extend the sentence by adding some descriptive words. Child might respond by saying, "I have a big red apple." Taking time to have children use words in sentences is good practice for all children, and especially for language learners. It provides a teachable moment for vocabulary and grammar development. You can use this routine to teach the sounds of all short vowels. Now, the routine for consonants is basically the same as the previous procedure. Let's use T as our consonant example. Show the child a card on which upper and lowercase t and a picture of the sound is displayed. The only difference in this lesson is that T is a consonant. Play along with me again. This letter is T. What's the letter's name?
T.
Yes, this
T.
letter's name is T. Black letters are consonants. Is T a consonant or a vowel? The child
Consonant.
consonant. Yes, thank you. T is a consonant. Black letters are consonants. The sound of T is T. What's the sound of T? Yes, excuse me. I'm going to get a drink. Yes, T says T. The spelling for T, the spelling for T is T. What's the spelling?
T.
T.
Tell me again. Name of the
T.
letter,
T.
T.
sound,
T.
spelling.
T.
T.
Great. T says T. What word starts with T? Use it in a sentence. After a sound spelling has been taught, excuse me, I've got a tickle that's not going to go away. After a sound spelling has been taught, it's important to provide lots of practice. There's always a technical difficulty I didn't expect. Okay. Provide lots of practice. Create activities and games to reinforce the new learning. For example, have the child find and cut out pictures of words in a magazine. Or draw pictures of things that start with the target sound. For example, pictures of a tiger, tent, and turtle. As the child does the activity, have her say the sound of that letter. There are many wonderful alliterative stories with an abundance of words that start with the same sound, that you can purchase online to read to your child. While reading alliterative stories, emphasize the target sound. You can find many wonderful alliterative stories and poems online. You and your child can also make up your own silly sentences, such as, Tommy Tiger took a turtle to town. Communication with the child's teacher or tutor is very important. Students can support classroom instruction when they know which sounds and spellings have been taught, which ones their child knows, and which ones still need to be mastered. After sound spelling has been taught and practiced, it's time for mixed practice. All new learning needs ongoing practice and review. A mixed practice is a review of spellings that have been taught but not mastered. Expecting a child to master a sound spelling after just one lesson is unrealistic. Children need many exposures to new learning before it settles into long-term memory. Some children need as few as 8 exposures. Many children need more. Some require over 50 interactions. This slide shows an example of a mixed practice activity. In this activity, a child is given a paper with the sounds and spellings the child is still learning. In this example, the sound spelling for T was just introduced. That's why you see the first line with only upper and lowercase t's. The other spellings, A, S, and M, were taught in prior lessons. These spellings have been taught, but not mastered. The child reads from left to right, saying the sound of each letter. So it would look like this. A, T, S, T, A, and so on. Another game to play is Find My Spelling. Place cards with spellings the child has learned or is learning on a table. The adult says one of the sounds. So for example, the adult says T. The child is to pick up the card with the correct spelling. Making up and playing games based on the skills being taught is a lot of fun. When playing mixed practice activities, include some sound spellings the child knows to build and maintain confidence. Quick responses are a sign of developing automaticity or fluency. Slower responses probably indicate the child is still learning a particular skill. When delivering a lesson, pronounce consonant sounds correctly with no at the end. Adding the schwa sound, at the end of a consonant hinders decoding. For example, the word bat has 3 phonemes, b, a, t, not 5, b, a, t, Watch the child's mouth as sounds are pronounced and look for articulation errors. Make corrections gently and respectfully. When a child responds incorrectly, say, "Let's try that again. The sound of T is T. What's the sound of T?" Reteach when necessary. At the end of the lesson, have the child say words starting with the target sound and use them in sentences. Children who have challenges with letter or word retrieval will need extra support and practice. When new learning is not cemented in long-term memory, its retrieval will neither be rapid nor automatic. Think time gives children an opportunity to think about a question and formulate a response. Because some children have difficulty with word retrieval, we need to remember to pause and wait for answers. After a question or when soliciting an opinion or a comment, pause for about 3 to 5 seconds. Allow time for an answer to be conceived and put into words. If after about 5 seconds the child hasn't been able to retrieve the information, provide the answer and make a note that more practice on that skill is needed. While our goal is to develop automaticity with sounds and spellings, we need to be respectful and patient. Over time and with sufficient review and practice, children's response times will shorten. Providing think time is surprisingly difficult to do. Embrace the pause. So let's summarize what we talked about in this session. According to the simple view of reading explained at the beginning of this presentation, if a word has been decoded and its meaning is known, the word has been read. Ensure that children understand the academic language that will be used in the lesson. Before teaching a sound spelling, do a phonemic awareness warm-up with the target sound. And remind children to use sound spelling cards when decoding and spelling. Also, remember to create activities and games that focus on the target sound spelling. Use mixed practice for new and previously taught sound spellings the child is still learning. Pause after asking a question to allow the child time to think and respond. Reteach when necessary and provide ample practice in a variety of ways until proficiency is achieved. Near the end of every presentation, we offer some recommendations for you to consider should you be interested in learning more about today's topic. So today's recommendations, as usual, first one is visit the links on the Dyslexia Initiative website, where you will find a list of the resources we used. Use sound spelling cards to teach sound spelling correspondence. Get them in your home. Follow a consistent routine when teaching sounds and spellings. Now, we want you to know that session 16 on handwriting was originally scheduled to be aired next week, but instead, please join us in 2 weeks. That would be Thursday, February 3rd, 2022, for Parent Session 16. It's on letter formation and handwriting. The remainder of this session is our favorite part because we get to interact with you. This is our time to get to know each other, make comments, and ask questions. There we are. We're back. Okay. Ashley, are you there?
I'm here. I've got, of course, my husband's in the background making noise. I apologize. I've got a question from Trey. How do we improve language comprehension? Through language experiences or teaching grammar, semantics, and sentence structures?
Well, when you're working with young children, maybe, Marilyn, do you want to address that?
Well, I think with young children, it's primarily by modeling. They're listening, to how you form sentences and make sense out of words, and that helps them. I think reading aloud to children is one of the most powerful ways to build language comprehension. And as the person mentioned, actual experiences. I mean, there really isn't any substitute for going to the zoo, to the various places of interest, museums. That's how children, learn firsthand what these words actually mean.
And you can, when children speak, if they, when they're young, at any time, when they mispronounce a word or they use a sentence that's grammatically incorrect, rather than saying, no, don't say it that way, this is the way you should say this sentence, you can gently correct by repeating their sentence.
Exactly.
Using the correct words with the correct pronunciation and the correct grammar. It's that simple.
As you pointed out earlier, Marby, this requires many, many, many repetitions. Just by modeling the correct language structure one time, it is not, with young children, repetition is essential. Really, I think through at least the third grade, repetition is, the value can't be overstated.
Okay.
Same individual, and they might need to elaborate on their question, but they, fill in vocabulary, question mark, word bucket, question mark.
I'm sure with Dylan.
Trey, you might need to elaborate for us. Candace, yes, the presentation will be on our website, dyslexiainitiative.org. Under recorded sessions, you can find the parent sessions. And this recording, as well as the presentation and all of Marvy's links, will be posted there. Sorry if this is out, this is from Megan. Sorry if this is out of the purview of the presentation, but do you have any insights into how to apply the techniques you presented to English learners?
Okay, I'll take this one. Yes. Okay, so we're talking, as Linda Farrell said, vocabulary development really is critical. So when you're working with an English learner, it really is important, just as when we started off our session today, saying that it's important that children understand these academic words, right? You need to constantly be checking for understanding regarding vocabulary development with all children, but especially with English learners. So when you use words that may be foreign to them, you can describe what the words mean. You can use pictures. Definitely reading to them aloud is important. Stopping and checking for understanding. Pre-teaching critical vocabulary words that are in the story that you're going to be reading is also very helpful. Young children learn vocabulary very fast, but it's very important that you are really deliberately teaching new words and checking in with the student for understanding. And if you're working in a classroom, while you're doing your instruction, you're going to be paying attention to all those little ones who maybe are having, you'll notice the little blank stares. And at that time, it's important that you take the time to stop, back up a little bit, and check for understanding.
So Trey clarified that her question above that I asked earlier, sorry, about filling vocabulary in word bucket. She said those were ways to develop language comprehension, but you've answered my question, so thank you. We have a question from Christine. Are there any programs for phonemic awareness for older children, age 9 and above, that you'd recommend trying? Our son is age 9 and still struggles with medial ending sounds. Thank you.
Okay, so can I ask, do you have a program that you're using now?
We'll have to give her a moment to answer.
Okay.
If we want to wait for her answer first, Trey has asked again, how would we adapt for learners with disorders? ADHD, how would we go about teaching new words, etc., and checking in with students who have ADHD, ASD, etc.?
This is not an area of my expertise. Now, ADHD, although ADHD is kind of it's an interesting thing going on here. You can find that some children's ADHD disappears once they learn to read, because all of their nervousness, anxiety, activity is due to just them knowing that they're struggling, and then it's easy when you're struggling and you're trying to read something. It's very easy to get distracted and move on to something else. But ADHD and the only thing I know is that ADHD and other learning disabilities can coexist, but that is not really our area of expertise.
So I'm going to repeat Christine's question. She said again, are there any programs for phonemic awareness for older children that you'd recommend? Our son is age 9 and struggles with medial ending sounds. And she clarified, he's had Heggerty bridging the gap for 6 months at school, and now a warm-up pre-Wilson lesson. I think this is Kilpatrick. I need to do more at home. Perhaps try Haggerty.
You know what I would do? I don't think age makes a difference when it comes to phonemic awareness. So it isn't necessary to find, there aren't, and there really aren't programs out there that are specific for age 9 or age 60.
Right.
I think that what I would do is I would go on to Amazon and search for Phonemic Awareness for Young Children. Isn't that the title, Marilyn? By
Right,
Marilyn Adams and Barbara Foreman.
Right, but I would also suggest the Sounds and Letters for Readers and Spellers by Jane, forgot her last name.
Phil Green.
Jane Green. And it's a little spiral bound book, and it works very well for older struggling readers. You can,
That's
5
really,
minutes,
yes.
5 minutes a day with Sounds and Letters for Readers and Spellers is a terrific collection of phonemic awareness activities that I've used with adults actually, even. And it is a superb piece of work and not very expensive. You should be able to get it by Jane Green. Sounds and Letters for Readers and Spellers.
And you can probably find it on eBay as well.
Yeah, and I apologize if I'm pronouncing anybody's names wrong, but Ronit also suggested Equipped for Reading Success, which, if my memory is serving me correctly, is by Dr. David Kilpatrick.
Okay, can you say that one more time again? So we can...
Equipped for Reading Success, yes, and she confirmed. So Equipped for Reading Success by Dr. David Kilpatrick. So we have another question. How do I excite my 5-year-old about learning letters, sounds, and words? I am an educator and I wonder if he has dyslexia.
I think making it fun, and as Marby was suggesting or mentioning the games and finding and being excited, making it a special time together. Mm-hmm. And there are some fun games.
And the lessons don't have to be long.
No.
But yeah. Keep
and
short and simple. Go ahead, Marilyn.
And you could never have too many alphabet books. There are many that are written that focus on the letters of the alphabet and in a fun way, you know, animals, all different sorts of books focusing on the letters. I would have lots of those available.
I think oftentimes if a child thinks it is a lesson or a chore or something they have to do, they're not as inclined to enjoy it. But if it's a special time that you're sharing and looking at the books and just that special time together, that it becomes an activity that they enjoy more than if it's just a lesson.
And I would also point out that a lot of the really good alphabet books include rhyming. So you're getting, besides letter knowledge, you're folding in some phonological awareness in a fun way.
Absolutely.
And so that would be, I think for 5-year-olds, that's one of the best tools at your disposal, are, you know, reading those books together.
And at the risk of repeating what my colleagues have said, just it's all in how you're framing it. It's fun. You present it in the frame of this, we're going to have fun. And the child will be more amenable to participating and will not look at it as I have a lesson to do today. You know, it's all in how it's presented or framed.
Absolutely.
Well, then it's important to have success too. So make sure that you're including some of those letters that your child already has mastered, so that they're, and not too many that they're working or struggling to learn to read. No, in our, I think it was session 4, I said that before, our beginning at the beginning series, session 4 talks about letter naming and why some children have difficulty. You can also go to Reading Rocket's website and watch Linda Farrell. She's got some great videos there, intervention videos that she uses, and she'll explain why some children have difficulty learning letter names.
And we also can remember that some of the children that are very active movers, to incorporate show them the letter, like the example of the jump, and let them jump as they say the sound, and as you have the letter, so they can be active at the same time. It depends on what activity you're doing. I think that's appropriate when it's movement time, and then there's quiet time when you want to sit and talk about the pictures and read and hear those sounds and see it. And the rhyming is, you've covered, Marvy, in an earlier session, that so many times parents they're not understanding the importance of that. So it's not only fun, but hearing that rhyme is just critical. So it's fun, and multiple reasons why we need to do it.
And you might want to incorporate in day-to-day application. The first thing I think about is the sound spelling card of S with the sizzling sausages.
Yes.
That was so fun. I saw a teacher do that, and she was sizzling sausages. And the kids were just so excited. So look for cases where you can apply the learning.
Yes. There are some cute pictures that go with those sounds, like sizzling sausage, on the sound spelling that you're referring to.
So from Megan, we have, I love that you included the emphasis on the need to be comfortable with silence while the student takes time to process during the decodable task. Are there any specific recommendations for determining whether the student is just giving up and staying silent? Any guidelines about how long to wait before jumping in and offering assistance?
Well, we're thinking about 5 seconds.
Yeah, I was just going to say that was 3 to 5.
It just kind of have a feel for the child. You're working with the child, so that the person is working with the child, so you have a feel for whether they need 3 seconds, 5 seconds. As the old saying goes, know your audience.
That's a wonderful point, because yes, that's absolutely right. I think when I was speaking of like 3 seconds, it's more on a fluency read when they're older. Tell them the word after 3 seconds but that's more of a fluency. But I agree. Know how long it takes for your child to respond when they know something versus when they don't.
But that's a good suggestion, though, 3 to 5, I think.
So from Sherry, our schools uses foundations, and I do think it is valuable. However, the speed was too fast and didn't master each level before moving on. How should I approach? Should I just start over? Learning remotely, they just didn't grasp well.
Beginning at the beginning.
Mhm.
Ronan also mentioned, I love the decodable chapter books by Sijim Nibble. I completely agree. She's got some really great books. From Gabriella again, thank you for all of those suggestions. The reason why my concern is growing is he blankly stares at the letters and words. Also behind, frustrated easily.
I want to go back to the question regarding online learning and the children not getting what they would
Yep.
have gotten in if they were in person doing in person and getting in person instruction. I think that if you're working with one child, if you're working with your child, you're going to want to do some simple little assessments and find out
Yes,
what they know.
Marvy, that's exactly what was going to be my recommendation.
Right,
What you
right,
said.
right.
Yeah.
And go ahead.
Well, for example, for the parent has a kindergartner, we're halfway through now the kindergarten year, so you can get TOPA online for free, the test of phonological awareness, and there are norms for mid-kindergarten and beginning first grade. So that would be if this were my child, that's where I would begin. It's easy to give. It's a highly acclaimed, simple assessment. And then you now have something in front of you that lets you know what the child knows or your child knows and needs to know next. And that really would be very useful in a conversation with the teacher, because we're also coming up on the end of the first semester. So probably you're going to have conferences or report cards or something. And I think that if that kind of assessment isn't being done mid-K, then it would be something that I would certainly do. Because when you say that your child is just staring blankly at the letters and so on, that's a big red flag. And I think it's time to take a
Yes.
closer look,
Okay, so what we'll do is we'll add to our links of resources. We'll add some links to a couple of tests that you can download online that would
Good.
help give you that information. And also, I would also recommend watching our parent session, previous parent session on standards and frameworks.
That's what I was thinking exactly. Being aware of what the standards are. So when you go to a parent teacher conference, you have that information and then can address how and what is happening to reach those for sure.
Because because the goal here is really, as Joseph Torgerson said so eloquently, catch them before they fail. So if you as a parent can identify some of these issues, then when you go to the teacher, to the school staff, I mean, here it is, you have the data. And now what are we going to do? How are we going to work together as a team to ensure that my child reaches grade level proficiency? It may be that he's or she is going to need extra tutoring, whatever, intervention. Remember, intervention is about time and intensity. So intensity means smaller groups, maybe even a group of one. Okay. Time, maybe this child needs more time for reading in school. So if we're going to catch children before they fail, we need to intervene as early as possible.
Yes, and the more you know and understand, the more empowered you will be.
I agree,
Absolutely.
because the kindergarten and first grade years are absolutely so critical, kindergarten especially.
So critical, so critical.
So you have a comment from Megan. I have found tongue twisters to be so helpful with 5-year-olds because they want to be grown-ups and they like to see grown-ups struggle with the language also. Makes language struggle natural for children.
Good.
Nice comment.
That's a great idea.
Yes.
Excellent.
From Trey again, what else would I expect teachers to be doing in supplementary to a targeted structured literacy lesson to reinforce further learning? And would I expect that additional learning, e.g. classroom-wide guided reading, to be focused on the target sounds to build mastery or language comprehension? What else should teachers be doing in addition to these structured lessons? I know that's kind of a complicated question.
I'm gonna say that's a lot in there.
What do you do,
Um,
Michelle? Explain what you did when you were teaching.
I'm not sure what you're referring to exactly, Marby. I would almost need to hear the question again. What was it you were referring to specifically?
When you're working with children, what were the extras that you did within the classroom for children that were struggling?
I'm just thinking of more of so much is pulling the child aside and just, I mean, besides the assessing, I did so much whole group instruction and guided and explicit. I'm really don't have some specific examples right now for you. I've been doing one-on-one tutoring for so long right now, and that is just taking the place of the whole classroom. But definitely, you know, pulling a few when they're doing their seat work. I mean, you've got to get 2 or 3 aside and work with them on specifically what they're having problems on. So I don't know that that's real creative as far as an answer, but it's necessary that you find out exactly what they need and address them. So important not to let anybody slip between the cracks. And I found that was such a passion of mine and why I got into what I did later on. It's a passion that we don't let these children slip, and we catch them with what they need to know, address it one-on-one, and everything is just explicit instruction. It's the same that you're doing whole group instruction with the program that I was teaching from. You take them aside and you're still teaching the same, obviously the same material, skills.
So in other words, they're getting extra practice and some targeted practice.
Absolutely.
On a daily basis, right? So you're watching.
Absolutely.
A child that's struggling, you're not going to just let them struggle. You're going to address their issues that day.
Constantly assessing and explicit teaching.
Exactly.
You know, I think that's the key.
I do too.
Well, and those youngsters who are struggling are going to need more time, you know, to learn these skills. So that has to be built into the instructional plan. And And all of the good materials do have recommendations and resources for kids who are struggling. So if the district is using one of the, programs that have been mentioned already, they have recommendations
Yes.
for, reinforcement of skills where kids are struggling. There's no way around it. If a youngster isn't getting it, he or she has to have the opportunity to have those skills reinforced. So,
Also, thinking back with my classroom, it was also all important that the advanced learner were challenging them in a classroom. So when they're doing some independent work, then I would definitely take those that are struggling. I would have time to work with them, because the other ones, they were very busy because they were working at their level. So I think it's important that we realize that if you are working with a few children individually and assessing them, always assessing, of course, so you know what skills they need and practice, it's important that the rest of the classroom is occupied and not wasting their time doing busy work, but we're challenging them all. And that gives us that ability to really focus on the child that needs extra practice.
Okay, well, I think that we have come to the end of our session. I hope everyone enjoyed this time. I know we always do. So thank you for joining us. Ashley, I'm sending it back to you.
Hi, everyone. Just a quick note. I know a couple more questions have come in. We will try to address those in the comments over the next couple of days. Thanks, everyone, for participating. And Marty, as always, this has been a fantastic session from you and your entire team. This is such a gift to our community. There is not enough thanks for you.
I don't know how to respond. Thank you. Thank you. We're honored, but really this is our passion too. We share this interest, like I said, and it's so much fun to know that we're a worldwide community. That's just amazing. It's kind of mind-boggling. We really do like sharing what we know with others. It's our pleasure. Thanks, Ashley, for letting us, for hosting these events.
It's my pleasure. Everyone, I hope that you have a fantastic evening.
thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye, everybody.
Good night.
Good night.